The heights of privilege and the power of humility. Amara Davis stood at the apex of a world she sometimes felt was crafted just for her. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, she belonged to the illustrious Davis family, one of the most respected and influential black families in the Southeast. The Davises were more than just affluent. They were deeply rooted in the ideals of community support, social justice, and humility. Her father, Charles Davis, had built Davis Financial from a modest community bank into a thriving financial empire, with branches scattered across the United States. And her mother, Evelyn, was a force in philanthropy, tirelessly supporting causes close to her heart. The sprawling Davis mansion, nestled in Buckhead's prestigious neighborhood, was a testament to the family's success. With its magnificent architecture, meticulously manicured gardens, and towering marble pillars, it was both a home and a symbol of the Davis legacy. Growing up here, Amara was surrounded by every comfort one could imagine. Yet her parents were adamant that privilege did not make one superior. It was simply a tool, a platform, to do better for others. Amara, in her mid-20s, had already begun her own journey in the family business. She had a sharp mind and an ambitious spirit, handling several key projects at Davis Financial while carving out her own path. Her confidence and grace were admired by her peers and loved by her community. However, despite her grounded upbringing, she had yet to fully understand the weight of life beyond her privileged walls. One summer afternoon, Amara found herself inside a Davis Financial branch downtown, preparing to withdraw a significant amount of cash for a charity event she had organized. She wanted this transaction handled personally, symbolizing her family's commitment to supporting her own city. She entered the bank with the easy confidence that came with knowing this was, in a way, her domain. As she approached the counter, she noticed a young teller, Vivian. Despite Amara's designer attire and poised demeanor, Vivian barely offered her a glance. Instead, she appeared to look her over with thinly veiled disapproval, perhaps mistaking her for someone posing above her status. Amara, unperturbed, stepped forward with a polite smile, greeting Vivian. "Good afternoon. I'm here to make a cash withdrawal from my account." Vivian looked up, her expression unchanged, her eyes betraying a hint of disdain. "And you're sure you have an account here?" she asked in a clipped tone, looking Amara up and down. Amara, slightly taken aback, maintained her composure. "Yes, I do. My name is Amara Davis." She extended her bank card with her ID. Vivian took the card, barely concealing a scoff. "Well, Ms. Davis, let's hope you've got sufficient funds for this unusual request." She tapped away at her keyboard with a hint of irritation. Her tone was sharp, her movements brusque, as though this transaction were a burden rather than her job. A few customers in line behind Amara began to take note of the tension building at the counter. Amara felt a spark of anger, her pride flaring. But she steadied herself, reminding herself of her parents' teachings. The way Vivian spoke to her was far from professional, but she was determined to handle it with dignity. She cleared her throat. "I would appreciate it if you could process this with a bit more courtesy." Vivian's eyes narrowed, lips curling in a subtle smirk. "Look, Ms. Davis," she replied, emphasizing her name with sarcasm, "we deal with many people who think they're VIPs, but they're not. Just a warning. It's embarrassing to be called out in public for insufficient funds." Amara felt the blood rush to her face, partly from anger, partly from the embarrassment that had been unjustly thrust upon her. Vivian's words echoed around her, filling her with a mix of emotions she hadn't felt in years. No one had spoken to her this way, especially not in her family's own establishment. Taking a deep breath, Amara considered her response carefully. She could easily demand a manager, have Vivian reprimanded, or even fired on the spot. But a quiet strength took hold of her, urging her to approach the situation differently. With a calm and measured voice, Amara replied, "You're right. Appearances can be deceiving. But it's your duty to treat everyone with respect, regardless of who they are or what they look like. That's what Davis Financial stands for." Vivian rolled her eyes but began processing the transaction, muttering under her breath. At that moment, Amara noticed the weary faces of other bank patrons, some dressed modestly, others in uniforms or business attire. She wondered if they, too, were met with similar treatment at the hands of people who judged based on appearances alone. After an awkward silence, Vivian finally handed Amara her requested amount, still sporting a look of disdain. Without a word, Amara accepted it, her face composed but her mind spinning with thoughts. As she left the bank, Amara replayed the incident, analyzing her reaction and the emotions that had surged within her. She knew she could return later to report Vivian, but somehow that felt inadequate, almost petty. There was a deeper lesson here, a call to do something more meaningful than a single reprimand. That evening, back in her parents' grand dining room, Amara shared the experience with her father. Charles listened intently, his wise eyes narrowing as she recounted Vivian's harsh words and dismissive attitude. "Amara," he began slowly, "this was a test, one you handled with dignity. But perhaps it's also a sign that there are some cracks in how our staff interact with clients, especially those who might not look the part. Remember, our bank was built to serve everyone, regardless of their appearance, their history, or their wallet size." Amara nodded, her mind racing with ideas. Her father's words had ignited a spark within her. "I want to do something about it," she said firmly, "but not just as punishment for Vivian. I want to bring change across our entire business, so every single employee remembers the values our family stands for." Charles smiled, a look of pride evident in his eyes. "That, my dear, is the mark of a true leader. Let's work on it together." Thus began Amara's journey to create a program within Davis Financial, a program dedicated to promoting respect, dignity, and service across every branch. She didn't want to stop with internal workshops. She wanted community outreach, a system where employees regularly engage with diverse communities, learning to understand the lives and perspectives of the clients they served. What Amara didn't realize was that her small encounter with Vivian was the first step in a larger transformation. For her, it was no longer about the humiliation or the anger she felt in the moment. This was now about honoring her family's legacy, creating something meaningful, and ensuring that every person who walked through Davis Financial's doors felt valued and respected. As she worked late into the night, drafting her initial plans, she felt a strange sense of gratitude for Vivian's rudeness. What had started as an insult was slowly blossoming into a mission of empathy and change. And this, she knew, was only the beginning, planting seeds of change. Amara woke the next morning, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The encounter at the bank had left a lingering impact, but rather than seeing it as a moment of humiliation, she now viewed it as the beginning of something transformative. She wanted to create an environment where every individual, regardless of their appearance, felt respected within the walls of Davis Financial. With her father's support, she started laying the groundwork for a program that would encompass more than just basic customer service training. She envisioned a movement within the company, one that would reshape not only how employees viewed their clients, but also how they perceived each other. She was going to call it the Davis Dignity Initiative. Over the following days, Amara was deep in research, reviewing studies on unconscious bias, effective communication, and how other successful companies had cultivated a culture of respect. She sought advice from leaders in social work, educators, and even spoke with people who had experienced prejudice in their day-to-day lives. Amara wanted this program to be more than a checkbox in an employee handbook. It needed to be a deeply ingrained part of Davis Financial's DNA. The initial rollout of the program would include immersive workshops, role-playing exercises, and weekly discussions focused on empathy and active listening. But Amara wanted to go further. She wanted to involve the employees in community outreach programs that would allow them to interact with diverse groups beyond their usual circles. Once the blueprint for the program was ready, Amara presented her ideas to the Davis Financial Executive Board. The board members listened intently as she passionately shared her vision, her experiences, and her commitment to making the company a place where every person felt welcomed and valued. The reaction was overwhelmingly positive, and Amara felt an immense wave of relief and pride. A few weeks later, the first Davis Dignity Workshop took place at the main branch. The employees, including tellers, managers, and security staff, gathered in the conference room, curious and slightly apprehensive. Amara began the workshop by sharing the story of her own encounter at the downtown branch, though she left Vivian's name out of it. She spoke candidly about how it had impacted her and explained why she felt compelled to create this program. She looked around the room, noting the mix of reactions. Some employees nodded in agreement, others seemed uncomfortable, and a few appeared skeptical. Among them, she spotted Vivian, her arms crossed, her gaze averted. Amara had purposely invited Vivian to participate, hoping this experience might open her eyes and perhaps soften her attitude. Amara introduced the first activity, called Walk a Mile in Their Shoes. Each employee was paired with someone from a different background, whether it was age, culture, or socioeconomic status. They were given scenarios to discuss, each designed to reveal the assumptions they might unconsciously hold. The room soon filled with voices, some nervous, others earnest, as employees shared stories of times they had felt judged, overlooked, or misunderstood. Vivian was paired with Charles, an elderly security guard who had been with the company since its early days. Charles had grown up during a time when overt discrimination was common, and his quiet strength had always inspired respect among his colleagues. As they worked through their assigned scenarios, Vivian initially seemed dismissive, her answers short and guarded. But as Charles began to share his own story, one filled with resilience and quiet dignity, something shifted in Vivian's demeanor. Charles spoke about a time when he was turned away from a job interview purely because of his race, despite his qualifications. He described how painful it had been, how he had worked twice as hard for half the recognition. Vivian's expression softened, her posture relaxing as she listened. This was the first time she had been confronted with the reality of someone else's experiences in such a direct way, and it struck a chord within her. After the workshop, Amara approached Vivian, who looked visibly different, less defensive, more introspective. Amara gave her a warm smile and extended her hand. "Thank you for participating, Vivian. I know some of this may have been uncomfortable, but I hope it gave you a new perspective," Amara said, her tone genuine. Vivian hesitated, then took Amara's hand. I'm sorry if I was rude to you before. I guess I've just had this habit of assuming things. I never really thought about how it might make others feel." Amara nodded. "It's understandable. We all have biases, whether we're aware of them or not. The important part is recognizing them and working to do better." Vivian's eyes met Amara's, and for the first time, there was a flicker of understanding between them. She seemed to understand that Amara's intentions were sincere, that this program wasn't about punishing anyone, but rather about building a stronger, more compassionate company. Over the next few months, the Davis Dignity Initiative became a cornerstone of the company's culture. Each branch implemented the workshops, and employees began to see the value in the program. Clients who had once felt marginalized or overlooked now reported feeling more welcomed and respected. Amara received letters from customers who shared how much it meant to them to be treated with kindness and empathy, and this feedback only fueled her drive to continue growing the initiative. One day, Amara decided to pay an unannounced visit to the downtown branch where her journey had started. As she walked through the doors, she observed the bustling atmosphere, noting the shift in energy. There was a warmth, a genuine friendliness in the interactions between employees and clients that hadn't been there before. Amara waited in line, wanting to experience firsthand the impact of her program. When it was her turn, she found herself face to face with Vivian again. But this time, Vivian's smile was warm and genuine. She greeted Amara with a respectful nod, her tone soft and welcoming. "Good afternoon, Ms. Davis. It's nice to see you here," Vivian said, her voice carrying the sincerity that hadn't been present during their first encounter. Amara smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thank you, Vivian. It's wonderful to see you again. I just wanted to check in and see how everything's going here." Vivian's face lit up as she recounted the positive changes she'd seen within the branch. "Honestly, the workshops have made a huge difference. It's helped me and others understand each other better, and I think clients can feel it too. We've even had people come back and thank us for the way we treated them." Hearing this, Amara felt an immense sense of fulfillment. It was a rare feeling, a deep understanding that her actions had rippled out, creating real change not just for the company, but for every individual who passed through its doors. As she turned to leave, a young girl in line caught her eye. The girl was dressed modestly, clutching a few dollars in her hand, looking a bit nervous. Amara watched as Vivian greeted the girl with the same warmth and kindness she had shown her, helping the girl navigate her transaction with patience and understanding. In that moment, Amara knew that the Davis Dignity Initiative was more than a program. It was a movement that had changed hearts, reshaped perspectives, and instilled a new level of humanity within the company. Walking out of the bank, Amara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility her family's legacy held. Her work was far from over, but she felt renewed, driven to continue expanding the initiative, ensuring that Davis Financial would be a beacon of respect, empathy, and equality for generations to come. For Amara, this journey was no longer just about preserving a family legacy. It was about creating one that would resonate long after she was gone. And as she looked back at the bank, she knew she was on the right path, her heart filled with hope and purpose, bridging the gap between legacy and progress. Several months had passed since the launch of the Davis Dignity Initiative, and the transformation at Davis Financial was evident. Amara received reports from branches across the country, each detailing stories of employees who had embraced the program, who had reshaped their attitudes and found new ways to connect with their clients. The initiative was gaining recognition, with media outlets beginning to take notice. However, Amara knew this was only the beginning. True change required constant nurturing. With the program's initial success, Amara decided it was time to expand the initiative's reach beyond the bank's walls. She envisioned something larger, something that would build a bridge between Davis Financial and the wider community. Her goal was to make Davis Financial a true pillar of support, where clients felt not only respected but also empowered. One morning, as Amara reviewed her plans for expansion, her father entered her office, carrying an envelope. Charles Davis was a man of few words, but his presence always carried a weight that demanded attention. He handed her the envelope, his expression thoughtful. "This arrived for you," he said, his eyes reflecting a hint of pride. Amara took the envelope, noting the familiar logo of the local Chamber of Commerce. Inside, she found an invitation to speak at an upcoming business conference focused on social responsibility. "This is your chance, Amara," Charles said, his tone encouraging. "You've done remarkable work within the company. Now it's time to show the world what we're doing and how they can be a part of it." Amara felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Public speaking wasn't her strongest suit, but she understood the significance of this opportunity. She nodded, grateful for her father's support, and agreed to accept the invitation. The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Amara spent long hours crafting her speech, determined to convey the importance of the Davis Dignity Initiative and inspire other businesses to adopt similar programs. She knew that this was more than just a speech. It was a chance to plant the seeds of change in other institutions, to inspire leaders who might not yet see the value in fostering empathy and respect within their companies. The day of the conference arrived, and Amara found herself standing backstage, her heart racing. The room was filled with CEOs, executives, and business owners from across the state. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her purpose. This wasn't about her. It was about the message, the movement, and the lives it could touch. As she stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. She began her speech by recounting the initial spark for the initiative, her encounter with Vivian, and the realization of how deeply rooted biases could impact customer relationships. She shared stories of employees who had embraced the program, who had grown and changed through empathy training, and who now saw their roles as more than just jobs. They were ambassadors of dignity and respect. Davis Financial wasn't built just to serve those who look or act a certain way, she declared, her voice steady and strong. It was built to serve everyone, to uplift those who might otherwise be overlooked, and to remind each person who walks through our doors that they are valued. This initiative isn't just about profits, it's about people, and it's about purpose. The audience listened intently, many of them nodding in agreement, others visibly moved. By the time she finished her speech, Amara felt a rush of relief mixed with exhilaration. The applause was thunderous, and she could see the impact of her words reflected in the faces before her. Afterward, several attendees approached her, eager to learn more about implementing similar programs in their own businesses. Amara was filled with gratitude, realizing that her message had resonated beyond what she had anticipated. The Davis Dignity Initiative was no longer just an internal program. It was becoming a model for others, a source of inspiration that had the potential to ripple outwards, creating waves of change. Among the attendees who approached her was a familiar face, Vivian, the teller from her initial encounter at the bank. Vivian had been transferred to another branch, and Amara hadn't seen her in months. Yet here she was, looking both nervous and determined. "Amara," Vivian began, her voice slightly shaky, "I wanted to thank you. I didn't understand the impact I was having on people back then. I was so focused on my own frustrations, my own insecurities. But this initiative, it's changed me. I've been volunteering at the community center, working with people I used to judge. And I realized I was wrong. You gave me a chance to see things differently." Amara was moved by Vivian's honesty. She reached out and gave Vivian's hand a warm squeeze. "Thank you for saying that, Vivian. Change is never easy, but it's worth it. I'm proud of you for taking this journey." Vivian nodded, a small smile breaking through her nervousness. It was clear that her transformation was genuine, and Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was reminded that the impact of the initiative wasn't just on clients but on employees as well. They, too, were growing, changing, and finding new meaning in their roles. Inspired by her experience at the conference, Amara began to implement additional elements into the Davis Dignity Initiative, focusing on partnerships with local nonprofits and organizations. She established a mentorship program, pairing Davis Financial employees with young people from underserved communities. The goal was to provide guidance, support, and financial literacy education, empowering these young individuals to pursue their dreams, just as she had been empowered by her family's legacy. Each month, Davis Financial hosted workshops and community events, inviting local leaders, educators, and activists to speak on issues of social justice, empathy, and community building. The initiative was no longer confined to the walls of the bank. It was woven into the very fabric of the community, touching lives beyond what Amara had initially imagined. One afternoon, as Amara was preparing for one of these workshops, she received a call from her mother, Evelyn. Her mother had been a quiet supporter of her efforts, offering advice and encouragement, but allowing Amara to steer the project in her own way. "Amara," Evelyn said, her voice filled with emotion, "I've been hearing such wonderful things about the initiative. I'm so proud of you. You've taken what your father and I started and made it something truly beautiful. I can see the impact it's having on people." Amara felt a surge of warmth at her mother's words. Evelyn had always been her role model, a woman of strength and compassion who had dedicated her life to uplifting others. To receive such praise from her mother was one of the highest honors she could imagine. "Thank you, Mom. I couldn't have done any of this without the values you and Dad instilled in me," Amara replied, her voice thick with emotion. "I just hope I'm making you both proud." "Oh, you are, my dear," Evelyn said softly. "More than you know." As the months passed, the Davis Dignity Initiative continued to flourish, becoming a symbol of hope and progress. Amara had achieved something remarkable, transforming a moment of humiliation into a movement of empathy and respect. The program had become an integral part of Davis Financial's identity, and it was clear that Amara's vision was reshaping not only the company, but also the community it served. One evening, as she walked through the now bustling downtown branch, she overheard a conversation between a young man and an elderly woman. The man was a new teller, and the woman had come in with questions about a complicated transaction. The teller listened patiently, answering each question with respect and kindness. The elderly woman smiled, visibly relieved by the young man's patience. Amara felt a swell of pride as she watched the interaction. This was the impact of her work, her legacy taking root in every corner of the company. She had not only preserved her family's values, but had expanded upon them, building something that would endure for generations. As she left the branch that night, Amara looked up at the Davis Financial logo shining above the door, feeling the deep sense of fulfillment. The company was more than just a financial institution. It was a beacon of hope, a place where every person felt valued, where respect was not just an expectation but a way of life. Amara knew her journey was far from over, but she felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. She had discovered a strength within herself she hadn't known existed, a strength that had turned a single painful experience into a legacy of compassion and change. And as she walked away, she knew that the Davis Dignity Initiative was just the beginning of her impact on the world, strengthening bonds and facing new challenges. As the Davis Dignity Initiative continued to grow, so did the number of lives it touched. Amara received countless messages of gratitude from clients and employees alike. Many people shared how the program had opened their eyes, helped them confront their biases, and brought them closer to the communities they served. Yet with each success, new challenges emerged, reminding Amara that true change required constant vigilance and effort. One such challenge arrived unexpectedly during a meeting with her executive team. Amara had gathered her top managers to discuss the expansion of the initiative to regions beyond their usual reach, including underserved rural areas where Davis Financial had yet to establish a significant presence. The idea was to bring banking services, along with the Dignity Initiative, to areas that lacked access to such resources. As she presented her vision, however, not everyone in the room shared her enthusiasm. Some executives voiced concerns about the financial risks involved in investing in these regions. One senior manager, Brian Carver, raised a particular concern that struck a nerve with Amara. "Look, Amara," Brian began, his tone respectful but hesitant. "I understand what you're trying to do here, and I admire it. But we're talking about investing in areas with high economic instability and low returns. The resources needed to train employees, maintain branches, and support the initiative might not justify the cost." Amara listened patiently, understanding the financial implications, but she also knew that the heart of the Davis Dignity Initiative went beyond profit margins. It was about impact. She looked around the room, seeing a mix of support and skepticism. This was an opportunity to remind her team of the bigger picture, to reignite the purpose behind their work. "Brian, I understand your concerns, and they're valid from a financial perspective," she began, her tone measured yet passionate. "But if we look at everything purely in terms of dollars and cents, we're missing the point. Davis Financial was built to serve people, to lift up communities that need it most. If we start ignoring these communities, we're turning our backs on our core values." She took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the room. The Dignity Initiative isn't just a program, it's a commitment. And that commitment doesn't stop at the borders of profitable areas. It's precisely these underserved communities that need us. By bringing banking and financial literacy to these regions, we're giving people the tools to empower themselves. We're investing in futures, not just profits. The room was silent, her words sinking in. Some executives nodded, their expressions softening. Brian looked thoughtful, a hint of respect crossing his face as he regarded Amara with newfound understanding. After the meeting, several executives approached Amara to express their support, including Brian. He acknowledged that her words had shifted his perspective, and he agreed to help explore ways to manage the financial risks while supporting the expansion. Amara felt a surge of gratitude, knowing that her team was behind her, even if the path wasn't always easy. With her team on board, Amara set to work, organizing a new outreach program tailored specifically to these rural communities. She enlisted volunteers from within Davis Financial to serve as ambassadors, individuals who would visit these areas to build connections and educate residents about the benefits of financial literacy and banking access. She wanted people to feel they were part of something greater, that Davis Financial was not just a business, but a partner in their success. In the months that followed, Amara visited some of these rural communities herself, eager to see firsthand the impact her initiative was making. She traveled to small towns where banking was still considered a luxury, where families struggled with predatory lending and a lack of financial resources. She spoke with people who had never set foot inside a bank, who had been living paycheck to paycheck without any form of savings or financial stability. In one such town, she met Clara, a single mother of 3 who worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. Clara had never trusted banks, having grown up hearing stories of hidden fees and deceitful practices. But when Amara introduced herself and explained the purpose of Davis Financial's presence in the community, Clara's skepticism slowly began to fade. "We're here to make banking accessible and transparent," Amara assured her. "No hidden fees, no complicated terms. We want you to feel secure, to know that you have a partner in us." Clara was hesitant at first, but after attending a financial literacy workshop hosted by Davis Financial, she opened her first savings account. Amara watched with pride as Clara shared her story with other residents, encouraging them to take a step toward financial independence. It was moments like these that reaffirmed Amara's belief in her mission, knowing that she was making a difference, one person at a time. Back in Atlanta, the impact of the Davis Dignity Initiative continued to ripple outward. Inspired by the success in rural areas, Amara began to focus on the next phase of her plan, a mentorship program that would bring young people from underserved backgrounds into the company. She envisioned a program where these youths could learn about finance, receive hands-on experience, and discover opportunities for careers they might have thought were out of reach. Amara and her team worked tirelessly to bring this vision to life, collaborating with local schools and nonprofit organizations to identify students who showed potential and drive. The program, named Future Leaders, was designed to provide internships, mentorship, and scholarships to these young individuals, offering them a path to a career in finance and beyond. The first cohort of Future Leaders arrived at Davis Financial that summer, a group of eager high school and college students, each with their own dreams and ambitions. Amara personally welcomed them, sharing the story of her family's journey and the values that had shaped the company. She encouraged them to see this as more than just a job opportunity, but as a chance to build something meaningful. One of the interns, a young man named Marcus, stood out to Amara from the beginning. He had a quiet determination, a sense of purpose that reminded her of herself. Marcus came from a neighborhood plagued by poverty and crime, yet he had managed to excel academically, driven by a desire to create a better life for his family. Amara saw in him the same spark that had fueled her own journey, and she took him under her wing, providing guidance and mentorship. As the weeks went by, Marcus thrived in the program, absorbing everything he could. He shadowed Amara, learning not only the technical aspects of finance, but also the values that underpinned the Davis Dignity Initiative. Marcus began to see the power of empathy, how understanding people's stories and challenges could transform a simple business transaction into a moment of trust and connection. One afternoon, Marcus shared his story with Amara. He spoke about the struggles his family faced, how he had often gone without so his siblings could have what they needed. Amara listened, moved by his resilience and determination. She knew that Marcus represented the very heart of the initiative. A young person with dreams, ready to break barriers and forge his own path. Inspired by Marcus and the other future leaders, Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She saw clearly now that the initiative was not just about changing Davis Financial. It was about shaping a generation, about giving young people the tools to rise above their circumstances and become leaders in their own right. As the summer came to a close, Amara organized a graduation ceremony for the future leaders cohort. Family members, friends, and Davis Financial staff gathered to celebrate these young trailblazers, each of whom had completed the program with new skills, insights, and aspirations. Amara took the stage to address the audience, her heart filled with pride. She spoke about the journey that had led her here, from a single moment of humiliation to a movement of dignity and respect. She looked out at Marcus and his peers, knowing that they were the future of Davis Financial and that they would carry forward the values she had fought so hard to instill. "We are more than just a bank," she said, her voice strong and clear. "We are a community, a family. And as each of you go out into the world, remember that you carry this legacy with you. You are the next generation of leaders, the ones who will continue this mission, who will bring dignity, empathy, and respect to every place you touch." The applause that followed was thunderous, and Amara felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had built something that would outlast her, something that would carry on through people like Marcus and the countless others whose lives had been touched by the initiative. As she stood there, basking in the moment, she knew that this was the legacy she was meant to create, a legacy of compassion, empowerment, and unwavering belief in the potential of every individual. But Amara was not finished yet. With each success, she saw new possibilities, new avenues to explore. Her work was far from over, and she welcomed the challenges ahead, ready to continue her journey of change, one step at a time. Resilience through adversity. As the Davis Dignity Initiative continued to gain momentum, Amara encountered a new series of challenges, ones that tested her resolve and forced her to confront the limitations of her own influence. She had always known that her vision would face resistance, but she hadn't anticipated the depth of opposition that would soon emerge. The trouble began subtly. Rumors circulated within the banking industry about Davis Financial's focus on empathy and social responsibility, with some competitors labeling it a distraction or even bad business. A few board members, once quietly skeptical, grew vocal in their concerns that Amara's initiatives were costing the company too much in resources, especially as they expanded to underrepresented and economically disadvantaged communities. The financial performance of some of these new branches was modest, and there was murmuring among certain executives about refocusing efforts on high-yield regions instead. One particular afternoon, Amara received a call from an influential investor, Howard Reed. Howard had been with Davis Financial since her father's early days, but his primary interest had always been profits rather than values. He had supported the Davis family out of loyalty to Charles, but Amara knew he had reservations about her initiatives. "Amara," Howard began, his voice firm, "we need to talk. I've been watching the company's financials closely, and I'm concerned about the direction we're heading. These new branches in low-income areas are bleeding us dry, and this dignity program, while noble, isn't adding to our bottom line. We need to prioritize our core markets and cut down on unnecessary expenditures." Amara felt a pang of frustration but maintained her composure. "Howard, I appreciate your concerns, but this initiative is about more than just the bottom line. It's about serving communities that have been overlooked, giving people a chance to build a future. Our brand, our name, it stands for something greater than profits. And ultimately, I believe that investing in people will lead to returns we can't yet measure in numbers." Howard sighed. "I understand your passion, Amara, but this is a business, not a charity. If we continue like this, we risk alienating other investors who don't share your vision." After the call, Amara sat in her office, grappling with the weight of Howard's words. She had always known that not everyone would support her initiatives, but the possibility of losing key investors was a threat she couldn't ignore. She felt torn, caught between her commitment to the Davis Dignity Initiative and the responsibility of sustaining her family's legacy. Over the following weeks, the pressure from investors grew, and some of the senior executives began pushing for cost-cutting measures that would scale back the initiative. The board scheduled an emergency meeting to review the company's finances and discuss the future of the program. Amara knew that this meeting could be a turning point for her vision, for better or worse. The night before the meeting, Amara found herself unable to sleep. She decided to go for a drive, seeking clarity in the quiet streets of Atlanta. She drove to the Davis Financial main branch, where it had all started. Sitting outside the building, she thought about her father's legacy, her mother's sacrifices, and the values that had shaped her own life. This bank wasn't just a business. It was a symbol of hope and resilience for countless people. As she sat there, she remembered the countless stories of those her initiative had helped. The elderly woman who had finally learned to manage her finances, the single mother who had opened her first savings account, and Marcus, the young intern from the Future Leaders program, who had risen from humble beginnings to embrace a world of new possibilities. These were the people she was fighting for, and she realized that no matter the opposition, she couldn't let them down. The next morning, Amara walked into the boardroom with renewed determination. She knew she would face criticism, but she was prepared to defend her vision. The meeting was tense from the beginning. Howard Reed and a few other board members wasted no time in expressing their doubts. They pointed to financial reports, highlighted underperforming branches, and questioned the long-term sustainability of the initiative. They argued that Davis Financial had a duty to its shareholders and that it was time to refocus on profitable markets. When they had finished, Amara stood up, her voice calm but resolute. "I understand your concerns," she began, her eyes meeting those of each board member. "And yes, there are risks involved. But what we're doing here goes beyond the numbers. We are building a legacy that cannot be measured solely in dollars. If we turn away from our commitment to underserved communities, we're turning away from the very values that made Davis Financial what it is." She continued, recounting the stories of clients and employees whose lives had been changed by the initiative. She spoke of Clara, the single mother who had learned to manage her finances, and Marcus, whose potential had been unlocked through the mentorship program. She reminded them that Davis Financial was a family business, founded not only to generate wealth but to uplift and empower. Amara's words struck a chord with some of the board members, and a few nodded in agreement. But Howard was unmoved, his expression hard and unyielding. "Amara, I respect your passion," he replied, "but you're risking the company's future on ideals. We can't afford to lose investors over a dream." At that moment, Charles Davis, who had been quietly observing the exchange, stood up. The room fell silent as he spoke, his voice steady and commanding. "Howard, I built this company from the ground up with more than profit in mind. It was about creating opportunities, about giving people something to believe in. I see in Amara the same vision that drove me to start this company. She is not risking our future. She is investing in it." Charles's words reverberated through the room, silencing further objections. He looked at Amara, his eyes filled with pride, and nodded for her to continue. With renewed confidence, Amara concluded her presentation, laying out her plans for sustainable growth. She proposed a compromise, suggesting adjustments to certain branches, while still allowing for the expansion of the Dignity Initiative. Her approach balanced fiscal responsibility with the mission she held dear, demonstrating that profitability and purpose could coexist. After a lengthy discussion, the board voted in favor of Amara's proposal. The Davis Dignity Initiative would continue, albeit with a few modifications to appease investors. Amara felt a surge of relief and gratitude, knowing that her vision had prevailed, at least for now. In the weeks that followed, Amara threw herself into her work with even greater intensity. She met with branch managers, refining the outreach programs, and mentoring new hires to ensure the initiative's core values remained intact. She spent time with clients, listening to their stories, learning from their experiences, and finding ways to enhance the services Davis Financial offered. One afternoon, she received a surprise visit from Marcus, who had completed his internship and was now working full-time at the company. He had been promoted to a junior associate role, and his dedication and resilience had not gone unnoticed. "Ms. Davis," Marcus began, his voice filled with gratitude, "I just wanted to thank you. I never imagined I'd be where I am today, and it's all because of this program, because of the chances you gave me. I want to help, however I can. I want to give back, just like you've given to me." Amara felt a swell of pride as she listened to Marcus. His journey mirrored the impact she had always hoped to achieve. She saw in him the potential to become a leader, a torchbearer who would carry forward the values of the Davis Dignity Initiative. "Thank you, Marcus," she replied, her voice warm. "Your story is exactly why we do this work, and I want you to know that you have a future here. Your passion, your resilience, they are the foundation of what we stand for. Together, we can continue to make a difference." As Marcus left her office, Amara realized that the legacy she was building wasn't just about her family name. It was about people like Marcus, Clara, and countless others who had been given a chance to rise, to build a life they had once thought impossible. The Davis Dignity Initiative had become more than a program. It was a movement, a force that would carry on, changing lives and shaping futures. The challenges she had faced only strengthened her resolve. She knew there would always be obstacles, people who questioned her vision, and moments of doubt. But she had the support of her family, the stories of those she had helped, and the unwavering belief in the power of empathy and respect. As she looked out over the city skyline from her office, Amara felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Her journey was far from over, and she welcomed the path ahead, knowing that every step was a testament to her commitment to a legacy of dignity, empowerment, and resilience. For Amara, this was only the beginning, and as she prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew that her purpose had never been clearer. She was ready to build a future rooted in compassion, a future where every person, no matter their background, would find a place of belonging and respect within the doors of Davis Financial. A legacy secured and a future forged. The years following the implementation of the Davis Dignity Initiative were transformative, not only for Davis Financial but for Amara as well. The initiative had grown into a symbol of hope and respect, reaching communities that had once felt invisible to large institutions. Under Amara's leadership, Davis Financial evolved into more than just a bank. It became a beacon of trust, understanding, and empowerment in a world where such values often felt like distant ideals. Amara's journey, however, was far from complete. Despite the success of the initiative, there were still obstacles, difficult decisions, and moments when the weight of her mission felt overwhelming. Yet each challenge only reinforced her commitment to the vision she had set forth years ago. One such challenge arrived unexpectedly, when Amara received an invitation to participate in a televised interview with a renowned business journalist. The network wanted to showcase the Davis Dignity Initiative as a groundbreaking example of social responsibility in the corporate world. Amara knew this was an opportunity to amplify her message, to inspire other companies to adopt similar principles. But as the day of the interview approached, she felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This interview would place her and the initiative under intense scrutiny, and not everyone would be supportive. On the day of the interview, Amara sat across from the interviewer, a formidable woman known for her no-nonsense style and incisive questions. The cameras rolled, and the journalist wasted no time diving into the heart of the matter. "Ms. Davis," she began, her tone probing, "the Davis Dignity Initiative has received praise for its commitment to underserved communities. But some critics argue that your approach is more of a marketing strategy than a sustainable business model. They say that your focus on empathy and social responsibility is a nice story, but ultimately, it's not profitable. How do you respond to that?" Amara smiled, her confidence unwavering. It's true that, on paper, some may see the initiative as a departure from traditional profit-driven models. But that's precisely the point. Davis Financial was founded on the idea that people are at the heart of business. Profit is important, but it's not our only purpose. By investing in these communities, we're not only building trust, but also planting seeds for long-term growth. It's a different approach, but one I believe is sustainable and transformative. The journalist nodded, slightly surprised by the clarity of Amara's response. You've mentioned the importance of empathy in business. Some would argue that empathy doesn't belong in a corporate setting. How do you see it? Empathy is foundational. Amara replied without hesitation. Without understanding the people we serve, we're just numbers on a spreadsheet. Empathy drives connection, and connection builds loyalty. It's not about charity. It's about building relationships. People remember how they're treated. They remember feeling valued, respected. That's what keeps them coming back, and that's what gives them hope in a system that often overlooks them. The interview continued, with Amara answering questions that challenged her values, her methods, and even her resilience. She shared stories of clients and employees whose lives had been transformed by the initiative, giving a voice to those who had once felt voiceless. By the end of the segment, even the skeptical journalist seemed moved by Amara's conviction and sincerity. The interview aired to widespread acclaim, and Amara was inundated with messages from business leaders, nonprofit organizations, and individuals inspired by her vision. She was invited to speak at conferences, contribute to thought leadership articles, and participate in collaborative projects aimed at fostering social responsibility in the corporate world. Her message was spreading, and her dream of a more compassionate business environment was becoming a reality. But amidst the praise, Amara remained grounded. She knew the true measure of her success wasn't in accolades or media coverage. It was in the lives changed, the futures secured, and the communities uplifted. In the years that followed, the Davis Dignity Initiative continued to evolve. Amara implemented new programs within the initiative, including financial literacy courses tailored specifically for immigrant communities, mentorships for young people pursuing careers outside of finance, and partnerships with local businesses to create job opportunities for individuals facing barriers to employment. One program that became particularly dear to Amara's heart was Generations Forward, a project focused on empowering senior citizens to manage their finances in an increasingly digital world. She'd noticed a growing concern among older clients who felt alienated by technology, and she wanted to ensure they felt confident and supported. The program included workshops, one-on-one assistance, and even a dedicated hotline for seniors to call with any questions they might have about their accounts or technology. It was an effort to bridge the gap between tradition and progress, ensuring that no one was left behind. As the program thrived, Amara took a step back and reflected on all that had been achieved. Her vision, which had once been met with skepticism and resistance, had blossomed into a movement that was now woven into the very fabric of Davis Financial. But more than that, it had become a model that other companies looked to, a beacon of what was possible when purpose was placed alongside profit. One crisp autumn morning, Amara received an unexpected visitor at her office. Vivian, the teller who had unintentionally sparked the initiative so many years ago. Vivian had since risen through the ranks and was now a branch manager, respected by her peers and beloved by her clients. She stood before Amara, her expression filled with gratitude. "Ms. Davis," Vivian began, her voice slightly shaky, "I don't know if I ever truly thanked you. Not just for the second chance, but for everything you've built. I was lost back then, angry at the world, and you showed me a different path. This initiative, it changed my life, and it's changed the lives of so many others." Amara felt a surge of warmth, deeply moved by Vivian's words. She stood up and embraced her, grateful for the unexpected role Vivian had played in her journey. "Thank you, Vivian. You were part of the reason this all started. Sometimes, it's the small moments, the unplanned encounters, that lead us to our greatest purpose." As Vivian left, Amara felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She knew her journey had come full circle, from that first painful encounter to this moment of healing and closure. She had transformed a moment of humiliation into a legacy of hope, and in doing so, she had discovered her own resilience, her own strength. A few years later, when Amara's own daughter, Maya, came of age, she introduced her to the company and the principles it stood for. Maya was eager, curious, and filled with a sense of purpose that reminded Amara of herself at that age. She watched as Maya began her own journey within Davis Financial, carrying forward the family legacy with a blend of curiosity and determination. One evening, as they walked through the halls of the Davis Financial headquarters, Amara shared stories with Maya, stories of clients, employees, and communities whose lives had been impacted by the initiative. She spoke of the struggles, the resistance, the breakthroughs, and the small victories that had defined her journey. And as she looked at her daughter, Amara knew that the future of Davis Financial was in good hands. Maya listened intently, absorbing every word. "Mom," she said, her eyes bright with excitement, "I want to keep building on this. I want to find new ways to make a difference. I want to make you and Grandpa proud." Amara smiled, her heart filled with pride. "You already have, Maya. Just remember that the heart of this company, the soul of what we've built, is people. Never lose sight of that." As the years went on, Maya began her own contributions to the company, expanding the Davis Dignity Initiative in ways Amara hadn't dreamed of. She introduced new technology to reach clients even in the most remote areas, developed partnerships with global organizations, and advocated for corporate responsibility in the digital age. Together, mother and daughter forged a path forward, blending tradition with innovation, creating a future where Davis Financial continued to be a symbol of hope and dignity. And so, as Amara looked out over the bustling cityscape from her office window, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had accomplished her mission, not only by transforming Davis Financial, but by inspiring a new generation to carry on the legacy of empathy, respect, and resilience. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, her vision would endure, woven into the lives of those who had been touched by her work. The Davis Dignity Initiative was no longer just a program or a policy. It was a movement, a legacy, and a testament to the power of compassion. And as Amara stepped away, leaving the future in the capable hands of her daughter, she knew that her family's mission would continue, lighting the way for generations to come. In the end, Amara Davis had built more than a successful business. She had built a bridge that connected people, uplifted communities, and stood as a testament to the strength of the human spirit. And as she watched her daughter take her place at the helm, she knew that the story of Davis Financial was far from over. It was only just beginning, a legacy that would stand the test of time, rooted in dignity, compassion, and the unshakable belief that every life mattered. A legacy of hope and a future unfolding. Amara Davis stood on the rooftop terrace of the Davis Financial headquarters, looking out over the city skyline as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden light over Atlanta. This was the same view her father, Charles, had admired each evening as he envisioned the future of the business he built from the ground up. It was a view that had come to symbolize hope, resilience, and the pursuit of a vision that transcended profit. Now, decades after that fateful encounter in the downtown branch that had sparked the Davis Dignity Initiative, Amara was preparing to hand the reins fully to her daughter, Maya. Under Maya's guidance, Davis Financial had not only continued to thrive, but had also become a leader in corporate social responsibility. The bank was now a model for how businesses could balance profit with purpose, setting a standard that had inspired countless other companies to adopt similar principles. As Amara reflected on her journey, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of accomplishment. She had transformed a moment of humiliation into a movement of dignity and empathy, shaping a legacy that had not only preserved her family's values but expanded upon them. And now she was ready to see how Maya would make her own mark. Just as she was lost in thought, Maya joined her on the terrace, her face lit up with excitement. She held a folder in her hands, one that Amara recognized as the latest plans for the next phase of the initiative. "Mom," Maya began, her voice full of enthusiasm, "I've been working on a project I think you'll love. It's a program we're calling Empowered. It's designed to provide financial literacy education to underserved schools nationwide. We'll be partnering with teachers, creating interactive modules, and even launching an online platform to reach kids in remote areas. Imagine what it could mean for these kids to have the tools they need to build a stable financial future from a young age." Amara felt a surge of pride as she listened to her daughter outline the details of Empowered. This was exactly the kind of initiative she had dreamed of, one that would reach beyond the walls of the bank, giving young people the knowledge and confidence to shape their own financial destinies. She reached out, placing a hand on Maya's shoulder. "This is incredible, Maya," Amara said, her voice filled with emotion. "You're taking everything we've built and expanding it in ways I hadn't even imagined. This is your legacy now, and I'm so proud of you." Maya smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, Mom. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for everything you taught me. You showed me what it means to lead with compassion, to put people first. I want to make sure that Davis Financial continues to be a place where everyone feels valued and supported." Over the following months, Maya poured her energy into launching Empowered. The program quickly gained traction, with schools and communities across the country expressing interest. Maya led a team of passionate educators, software developers, and community leaders, each of whom believed deeply in the mission. Together, they crafted an engaging curriculum that covered everything from basic budgeting to understanding credit and managing debt. The lessons were designed to be accessible, interactive, and relevant to students' everyday lives. Empowered's impact was immediate. Stories poured in from teachers and students alike, each describing how the program had transformed their approach to money management. Students who had once felt uncertain about their future now spoke confidently about saving for college, investing in their goals, and supporting their families. For many, it was the first time they felt in control of their financial choices, empowered to build a life of stability and possibility. Amara watched with pride as Empowered blossomed, knowing that her daughter was forging her own path while honoring the legacy of Davis Financial. And as she stepped back from the day-to-day responsibilities of the business, Amara began to focus on a new chapter of her own, one that allowed her to give back in ways she hadn't had time for before. She established the Davis Family Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting initiatives that aligned with the values of the Davis Dignity Initiative. The foundation provided grants to grassroots organizations focused on social justice, educational equity, and economic empowerment. Amara spent her days traveling, meeting with community leaders, learning from activists, and investing in projects that brought hope to underserved areas. Through the foundation, Amara forged partnerships with leaders from diverse backgrounds, each of whom had their own story of resilience and vision for change. She met with young activists who were fighting to improve education in low-income neighborhoods, entrepreneurs who were creating jobs in economically depressed areas, and educators who were working to close the achievement gap. Each partnership was a testament to the power of community, a reminder that meaningful change required collective effort and collaboration. One of the foundation's most impactful partnerships emerged in collaboration with a nonprofit organization led by Clara, the single mother whom Amara had met years earlier in a rural branch. After learning to manage her finances and eventually starting her own small business, Clara had become a powerful advocate for economic empowerment in her community. With support from the Davis Family Foundation, Clara's organization launched a series of workshops and resources designed to support women entrepreneurs, providing them with the skills and confidence to succeed. As Amara watched Clara stand before a room full of aspiring businesswomen, sharing her story of struggle and triumph, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Clara's journey was a testament to everything Amara had worked for, the idea that, given the right support, people could rise above their circumstances, realize their potential, and become leaders in their own right. Back at Davis Financial, Maya's impact was evident in every corner of the company. She had taken the values instilled by her mother and grandfather and infused them with a new vision, one that embraced technology, innovation, and inclusivity. Under her leadership, Davis Financial expanded its services to include a digital banking platform that offered secure, low-cost accounts to individuals who had been excluded from traditional banking. The platform became a lifeline for those in remote areas and urban communities alike, bringing accessible banking to people who had long been overlooked. Maya's leadership style mirrored her mother's in many ways, but she brought her own unique approach to the role. She was collaborative, listening carefully to employees at every level of the company, from tellers to executives. She believed in transparency, regularly holding town hall meetings to discuss company goals and challenges. And she valued innovation, encouraging her team to explore new ideas that aligned with their mission. One day, as Maya reviewed the latest reports from Empowered, she received a visit from Marcus, now a senior executive at Davis Financial. Marcus had risen through the ranks, his dedication and resilience making him a trusted leader within the company. He had never forgotten the opportunities that the Davis Dignity Initiative had given him, and he was deeply committed to carrying on its values. Maya, Marcus began, a proud smile on his face, I wanted to share something with you. We've been receiving letters from former Empowered students who are now graduating college. They've written to thank us, to tell us how much the program meant to them. Many of them are the first in their families to graduate. They're building careers, supporting their communities, and they're grateful for the start we gave them. Maya felt a surge of emotion as she listened, realizing the profound impact that Empowered was having. It wasn't just a financial literacy program. It was a path to empowerment, a foundation upon which young people could build their dreams. Amara, too, felt a deep sense of joy and pride as she learned of the program's success. She had built something that would outlast her, a legacy woven into the lives of countless individuals who had found hope, strength, and opportunity through the Davis Dignity Initiative. Her journey, marked by resilience and purpose, had come full circle, touching lives in ways she had never anticipated. As she prepared to retire fully, Amara gathered her family and closest colleagues for a small, intimate celebration. Standing before them, she reflected on the journey that had brought them all to this moment. When I first started this initiative, she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I did it because I wanted to make a difference, to honor the values my parents instilled in me. I wanted every person who walked through our doors to feel seen, respected, and valued. But what we've built together has grown into something far greater than I could have imagined. This isn't just a legacy, it's a movement. And I know that in the hands of each of you, it will continue to flourish. As she looked at Maya, Marcus, and the many others who had been part of the journey, Amara felt a profound sense of peace. Her life's work had been fulfilled, and she knew that the future of Davis Financial was secure, led by a new generation who understood the power of compassion, resilience, and dignity. In the years that followed, Amara watched from afar as Maya and her team continued to innovate, expand, and deepen the impact of the Davis Dignity Initiative. She saw the company grow into a global leader in responsible banking, a model of what was possible when business was guided by empathy and purpose. And as she looked out at a world that had been touched by her vision, Amara knew that her legacy was secure, a legacy of hope, a future where every person had the opportunity to rise, thrive, and find dignity. With a heart full of gratitude, Amara Davis stepped into the next chapter of her life, knowing that she had left a mark on the world that would endure for generations to come.